Good evening. I'd like to start with a quote from my friend and colleague, Rick Harris. What humans desire more than anything else is to be truly known by another person. This is a pretty powerful idea. Think about it. On any given night, my partner might ask me if I want mussels for dinner, and I've never eaten a mussel in my life, and he should know that I don't eat food you don't have to chew. It's just a trite example of how hard it is to be truly known by another person. If we're really lucky, we might have that type of relationship with a few people in a lifetime. But the one person you should always have that relationship with is yourself. While this may seem easy, I mean, you're with yourself 24/7, self-empathy requires work and intentionality. And I would argue the need for it coming out of the pandemic is more pressing than ever. The pandemic really challenged what we knew or thought we knew about ourselves. In 2020, I got up every day, ate my breakfast, sat in my dining room chair with my books to my left and my tea to my right. I would get up to get almonds, my official food sponsor of the 2020-21 pandemic. I went weeks without moving my car or going in a store. In the classes I was teaching, I had no idea which students were friends with each other, and I couldn't even read the backs of their computers, which were typically littered with stickers that would tell me which students are my fierce environmentalists and which ones revel in sarcasm. You would be shocked how much you can learn about a person from the back of their computer. Yet my job was really the same, to teach, mentor, and support the best group of students anywhere. Even though it was harder doing my work online every day on Zoom, I did see the faces of my colleagues and students, people I had already developed relationships of trust and respect with. My husband and daughter were not so lucky. Both started new jobs over the pandemic. My daughter was working her first real job in her profession, and her boss and colleagues didn't spend any time getting to know her. And to make matters worse, one of the employees was gaslighting her to the boss. Her boss knew nothing about her, so had no reason to trust her or defend her. What was reflected back at her was people seeing her as incompetent and unorganized. She actually became anxious, started to doubt herself, her goals, her abilities. Isolation doesn't necessarily come from being alone or stuck in your house. It could come from not being seen for who you are. I noticed something similar with some of my honor students, a group of chronic overachievers. Suddenly, the pandemic took away the opportunity to overachieve. There were no clubs, internships, team captains. None of that was relevant. The classroom had moved online and was often asynchronous. The opportunity to lead a group project or raise your hand in a class might have also slipped away. This zapped students of what inherently motivated them, the desire to achieve. Many young adults watched the news and felt unseen as adults made what was deemed to be poor decisions about their future, or worse, created legislations that quite literally penalized adults for making sure children could explore their gender, sexuality, or history. The bottom line is this. The time around the pandemic had many of us feeling truly disconnected and asking questions like, who am I? Is this the time to let go of the expectations imposed on me and create ones that feel truer, more authentic? Maybe we were wondering, does anyone really see us? So, my call for self-empathy comes first from that feeling of dissonance many of us endured during the pandemic. Self-empathy can help reconcile those feelings. The other call comes from what will linger long after the pandemic, a more remote world. Remote learning, working, teaching, relationships are not going away. So to create the kind of connections we need to thrive in our personal and professional spaces, we need to start with intentional self-empathy. So what is self-empathy? First, let me say what it isn't. Self-empathy is not the same as self-compassion or self-care. Self-compassion is thinking about yourself in a kind way, and self-care is acting in kindness toward yourself. Self-empathy happens when you seek to understand who you are without judgment, to understand why you do what you do, your inclinations, strengths, weaknesses, and how your stories and experiences illuminate your tendencies in your own unique way. It is not about merely labeling your traits, but exploring how you uniquely own your traits. When I say own it, I mean feeling pride in your strengths, values, and motivations, and not apologizing for your inclinations or needs. As a personal example, I'm a people person, but that's merely a label, an adjective. I exhibit this quality in my own unique way. And through the practice of self-empathy, I've explored why I am a people person. And I have deduced that yes, I likely have the natural proclivity towards it. But I also likely became this way due to some unfortunate middle school bullying, being the last one chosen for teams. And I was also an extreme role follower, which children never see as particularly cool. This all made me want to do what was necessary to make others like me. As I got older, I was able to harness this energy into a strength that I used to ensure people are centered in decision making and communication. In self-empathy, I've explored the numerous stories that showcase how I use this trait as a strength and the equal number of stories of when it reverts back to people pleasing, which is a trap that I try not to fall into, but frankly, it's hard. In the reflective activity of considering why I have this trait and how it would be of most value to me and others, I learned self empathy. I can provide myself some forgiveness and acknowledgement with each reflective attempt, and I grow a deeper understanding of my own actions, which of course influence future behaviors, and I also mirror out so that people know better how to work with me. But without the reflective practice, I just sit on a label that thousands of others share, but in reality, no two of us share it exactly the same way. Understanding allows you to make decisions that are in your own best interests. This practice allows you to say who you are, what others can expect of you, and where you may need help from time to time. When you can openly and accurately share these thoughts about self, then you can step into that space that we all want and others crave from us: authenticity. The thing I've learned that might be the most counterintuitive thing about self empathy is that when you practice it in a respectful, facilitated group, the results can be richer than when practicing it alone. So, why would that be true? Unfortunately, we grow up getting lots of messaging about what traits and priorities and motivations are valuable and which aren't. And if we don't fit in that paradigm authentically, we either try to force the square peg in the round hole, or we fail to see our talents as valued, or worse yet, valuable. This diminishes confidence. When we teach or give tools for self-empathy, we could break down the traditional notions of what is valuable. I think about some of the students who may not excel in academic subjects, but notice when another child's having a bad day and ask them to play. This child is, yes, kind, and that's wonderful. But this is also the child that's likely to grow up and ensure that everyone on their team feels vital, ensure that other ideas are heard, improves the motivation of the entire team. When self-empathy is intentionally practiced in facilitated groups, and I want to emphasize facilitated groups, people get an opportunity to see the deeper potential of their traits, and it's less likely they will minimize or diminish their offerings as less important. In fact, students who hold traditionally valued attributes might learn to appreciate their attribute in a spectacular new way. There's nothing like watching someone that's comfortable taking the lead, holding back on their own thoughts to ensure there is room for lesser heard voices, and then understanding how exponentially more powerful their inclination for leading is when it's used to lift others up. Self-empathy in practice provides each of us the gift of enjoying being the best version of our authentic selves. I teach a class called the study of self in teams. First we study self and then teams. It's moderated self-empathy. Most days we're doing experiences kind of like the Amazing Race, but with a cognitive reflection in between each challenge. On any given day, I might give out bags of puzzle pieces without any instructions or providing the students the box with the picture on it so they don't even know what they're making. The question is, will someone ask for the box? By the way, they can have it if they ask. There's also a puzzle piece missing. They can't fully complete the challenge. It's a little mean. But here I find out who are our perfectionists. When they get about 2/3 of the way done, I provide a time limit. Who's super competitive? Then we explore why we do those things and how we can use it as a strength. Not only do I learn these things, but the rest of the class does as well. But perhaps most importantly, the student has the opportunity to explore those aspects of their personality more fully, to hear the stories of their peers that share the same traits as they do, but for different reasons. When they work in homogeneous groups with people of similar strengths, they see the comfort of recognizing they're not alone. When they work in heterogeneous groups with people with diverse strengths, they see where the magic happens. The results are better, and each teammate's strength is seen and uniquely valued. Confidence grows. At the end of 6 weeks, students have shared intensely in their pursuit of self-empathy. And here is where I get to tell you the best part of what I found over the years. The part that assures me that when groups put in the time for self-empathy, the reward is well worth the effort. In a final moment of awkward vulnerability, I do what's called the Big Paper Challenge. Students hang up big papers across the room with their names on it, personality test roles, mission statements, top values. We set the room to music, and the students roam around writing on their peers' papers in an act of actual empathy to write down what they presume to be their new friends' frustrations, rewards, motivations. It's scary. Think about doing this for a group of 15 relative strangers. But you know what? 95% of the time, all the information on the big papers is true. Everyone cannot believe how much they are seen for who they are, that these relative strangers in their class might know things about them that their friends don't even know. This can be what happens when you practice self-empathy in a group. You get empathy. People see you for who you are. You feel trust. You feel connection. The days that follow that challenge, there is so much more laughter as we work on teams. The students report more joy, more confidence, more motivation, a greater understanding that they don't have to be everything to everyone. They just have to be fearlessly themselves. I think this is what we all want for one another. The opportunity to take off the metaphoric mask, to recognize ourselves and have others recognize us for exactly who we are, and know we are well on our way to creating the space for those connections that as humans we all desire and need now more than ever. Thank you so much for listening.